Hi, I'm Travis Feuerbacher, a licensed U.S. immigration attorney and a former visa officer with the Department of State. As a visa officer, I interviewed tens of thousands of visa applicants from all over the world, and I now dedicate my time to helping applicants navigate through the complicated and sometimes scary visa process. Today, I want to talk about the B1, B2 visitor visa, specifically the end-to-end process to apply for that visa and ultimately travel to the United States. Now, I do suggest that you watch our video on what is and is not allowed under the B1, B2 visitor visa category, because your visa officer will be questioning what you're planning to do in the United States during your interview, so they can determine whether whatever you're planning to do is or is not allowed. Now, assuming that you're planning to do something that is allowed, for example, maybe you're planning to visit the United States for a 2-week vacation, then the following steps are what you will need to plan to go through to apply for your visa, hopefully find success at your interview, and then fulfill your dream of traveling to the United States. So as a first step, I recommend that you think about where you might want to apply. And a big consideration there is how long it might take to schedule your interview at a specific embassy or consulate. We'll put a link in the description below to a nice calculator tool that the U.S. Department of State maintains, where you can see exactly how many calendar days you will likely have to wait before you can schedule your interview at all of the embassies and consulates around the world. Now remember, when you're thinking about this, we always recommend that you apply as close to your home and in your country as possible, but there may be times where you might need or want to apply somewhere else. If that's the case, you may want to reach out to an immigration lawyer to evaluate how that might affect your chance of success. So after you've reviewed the wait time to schedule your interview and you think you've arrived at a place where you might want to actually interview for your visa, the first real step in your visa journey is the online visa application form. This is called the DS-160. Now the DS-160 is actually not that complicated. What is complicated is that it will request lots of information that may take some significant time to gather. The system itself is also prone to glitches. You may expect to be logged out, not after a few minutes of an activity, but sometimes just a few seconds. So save your work often and make sure you provide as much detail as possible. Now, once you've finished your DS-160, and by the way, you should review your responses several times before you submit the form, because after you submit it, you can't go back and change any response. So after you've done that, the next step is to schedule your interview. Now, usually, the embassy or consulate will redirect you to a third-party website. This might be something like US Travel Docs or something else. Don't be alarmed. Even though it doesn't look like an official government website, this actually is the normal way that you schedule an interview. So first, you'll have to create an account. You'll have to set up a profile. Generally, you'll have to answer some basic biographic questions like what is your name, your date of birth, your passport number. You will enter a confirmation number called the application ID that you got from your DS-160, and then you'll pay an interview fee. Now, the way you pay the fee varies widely from embassy to embassy and consulate to consulate. In some countries or some regions, you might be able to pay this with a check. You might be able to pay with a credit card. In other places, you may have to call a phone number, while in other places, you might actually have to go somewhere in person and then provide some code from a receipt in the online system before you can proceed. So review the specific steps for the location where you're scheduling your interview and follow those steps so that you can pay the required fee. After you pay the fee, now you will generally see available interview slots. Now, you might see that there is nothing available for several months beyond your planned travel date. If that's the case, you may qualify for an earlier interview, what's called an expedited appointment. But keep in mind that expedited appointments are not generally made available to people who are just traveling for a vacation or for a business meeting, and they may also not be available if you've been refused before. So if you find yourself in this situation, you might start wanting to explore other either consulates or embassies or even other countries where you might schedule an interview. Now comes the time for your interview. So this is the most crucial step, the biggest milestone in your visa journey. For a B1, B2 visa, the law actually puts the responsibility on your shoulders as the applicant to demonstrate for your visa officer why you deserve the visa. What you're planning to do is permitted, you can afford the trip, and that you're going to return home after your short stay in the United States. This is where expert assistance and expert preparation can really come into play. Now, we offer two options that you might consider. First, we have a range of highly expert courses and guides on our website at zfvisaguides.com. My partner Mandy and I, both former visa officers and U.S. immigration attorneys, we've taken all of our experience with B1, B2 visa applications and conducting B1, B2 visa interviews, and we've put that into 3 comprehensive guides. Our first course covers the DS-160, how you can complete the form with as much honesty, transparency, and detail as possible, as well as some nice tips and guidance and even recommendations to make sure that you complete the form with the minimum amount of disruption and glitches possible. We then have a course that is specifically focused on the interview itself. How can you prepare for the interview? What documents might you bring with you? And how can you most effectively communicate with your visa officer to maximize your chance of success? We provide examples of interviews for a range of different travel purposes, good examples and bad examples, with lots of tips about how you can prepare to explain your unique circumstance and your specific plans to your visa officer. And then we have a comprehensive guide. This covers everything in the process, from the DS-160 application form to the interview itself, and even potential complications, how to avoid those complications, and what to do if you find yourself in a situation that maybe you couldn't avoid. This includes previous denials. How should you explain a previous denial, both in your application form and during your interview, and what might that mean for your chance of success? Now, with our complete guide, you will also unlock access to a bi-weekly question and answer session with either myself or my partner Mandy, where we will answer any remaining B1, B2 visa questions that you still have. Now, if you prefer a more one-on-one approach, you can also visit our website for our law firm, zfvisa.com. There, you can book a consultation with us, where we can address the specific questions you have, we can practice some mock interviews, and we can also address any complications that you might find yourself in and work together to develop a strategy to hopefully move you forward. Now, after your interview, let's hope that you are approved, maybe because you have used our expert guidance. Now is the time to travel to the United States. Remember, your visa or your non-immigration visa journey is not over yet. Once you land in the United States, you still have to go through a passport check. You will have to talk to a member of Customs and Border Protection who may ask you several questions about your travel plans and your life back at home. Treat that interaction just like you would your visa interview. You should be prepared to offer lots of details about your plans and your situation at home so that you don't find yourself with any unnecessary delay or other complications. Now, the last step in the journey is to return home. Remember, the B1, B2 visa is a non-immigrant visa. That means that it's kind of like a ticket that gets you into the country, but it only allows you to stay in the country for a short period of time. When you enter the country, Customs and Border Protection will tell you how long you're allowed to stay. Generally speaking, that's up to 6 months. So you need to make sure that you go home before that authorization expires. Otherwise, you may find that you have complicated your future chance of getting a visa or even of re-entering the United States. So I hope you find this useful. If you do have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can contact us at info@zfvisa.com, and I do recommend that you review our comprehensive expert guides at zfvisaguides.com. We've done our utmost to make sure that we provide all of the tips and guidance and best practices to help you maximize your chance of success in your next visa application. Best of luck on your journey. Follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram to stay updated with tons of valuable resources and the latest updates about different US visas.